I never planned to end up working the graveyard shift at some nowhere motel. But then again, I never planned to drop out of college either. I was supposed to make something of myself. That's what everyone said. My dad had called it a sure thing, a bright future waiting for me at a top-tier school. My mom cried when I got my acceptance letter, clutching me like I'd already become someone important. I had the scholarships, the grades, the ambition, and for a while I believed it. Then came the reality. College wasn't what I expected. The classes were harder, the professors colder, and the people around me, I didn't fit. My roommate was a walking stereotype, a business major who spent his nights drunk and his mornings hungover, while I was in the library trying to keep up. I made friends at first, but after a while, I stopped texting back. This growing weight was on my chest every time I walked into a lecture hall, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I flunked 2 classes my second semester, the first cracks in the image I'd built of myself. After that, I stopped going to class entirely. My parents didn't know at first. I kept up the lie as long as I could, but when the school finally sent the letter home, the one saying I'd been academically dismissed, my dad didn't even look at me. He just said, "Guess we wasted our money." That was 6 months ago. I've been drifting since then, avoiding their calls and sleeping on friends' couches. When I saw the job ad for a night shift attendant at the Pinewood Motel, it felt like fate. A dead-end job at a dead-end place where no one would know me, where I could disappear. The Pinewood Motel looked like something out of a horror movie. A squat, 2-story building with peeling paint and a flickering neon sign perched at the edge of a desolate highway. The kind of place where the beds are always damp and the carpet smells like old cigarettes. The manager, a wiry man with sunken cheeks and eyes that never quite focused, didn't ask many questions. He didn't seem to care about my lack of experience or why I wanted the job. "Night shift's easy," he said, sliding me a clipboard with a few forms to sign. "Not many guests. Just keep the desk manned, clean up when you need to." And he paused, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "Follow these rules. Exactly." I unfolded the paper, expecting some generic checklist, but instead I found this. Rules for the night shift. 1. Never, under any circumstances, enter room 6. 2. If a guest asks for a room key but doesn't give a name, assign them room 8. 3. The phone will ring at 3:13 a.m. Answer it, but don't speak, just listen. 4. If a guest checks out between 2 and 4 a.m., leave their room key on the desk. Don't touch it. 5. Never look directly at the guest in room 12. I laughed, thinking it was some kind of joke. "What is this?" The manager didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. "Stick to the rules," he said, his voice low, "and you'll be fine." I wanted to ask what would happen if I didn't, but something in his expression stopped me. The first night was quiet, too quiet. The lobby was dimly lit, with a battered leather chair behind the front desk and an old TV mounted on the wall. I flipped through the channels, but nothing held my attention. Outside, the highway stretched into darkness, broken only by the occasional flash of headlights. At midnight, a woman walked in. She was tall and thin, her hair hanging limply around her face. She didn't have any luggage, just a pale hand that hovered near her coat pocket. "Need a room?" I asked, trying to sound professional. She didn't answer. She didn't even look at me. Instead, she whispered, "Room 8. The rule flashed in my mind. No name, room 8. I slid the key across the desk, and she took it without a word. Her hand was ice cold. I watched her leave, her footsteps silent on the tile. When she reached the hallway, she paused, turning slightly toward room 6. For a moment, I thought she might open the door, but then she kept walking. The phone rang at 3:13 a.m., just like the rules said it would. I stared at it for a long moment, dread curling in my stomach. Finally, I picked it up. Hello? No response. Instead, I heard static, faint at first, then growing louder, like the hiss of a radio tuned to the wrong station. Beneath it, there was a whisper, soft, garbled, and almost familiar. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear my name. Jack. I slammed the phone down, my heart pounding. I didn't sleep when my shift ended. By my second week, I'd learned not to ask questions. The guests were strange, but as long as I followed the rules, nothing happened. Except for the night, I touched the key. It was a man who checked out of room 12, tall, thin, and unnervingly pale, like he'd been carved from wax. He left the key on the desk without saying a word. The rule was clear: don't touch it. But something about the key drew me in. It wasn't shiny or special. It was just a worn brass key, but the air around it felt heavy, like it was pulling me closer. Before I could stop myself, I reached out and grabbed it. The second my fingers touched the metal, the room shifted. The lights flickered, and a low hum filled the air, vibrating deep in my chest. My vision went black, and when it returned, I was standing in front of room 6. The door was open. Inside was darkness, thick and alive, like a swirling void. Shapes moved within it, their edges sharp and unnatural, and in the center, something stared at me. I couldn't see its eyes, but I felt its gaze. Then I was back at the desk, gasping for breath. The key was gone. The manager didn't seem surprised when I told him. "Consider that your warning," he said, his voice cold. "Next time, you won't be so lucky." I wanted to quit, but I couldn't. Something about the motel wouldn't let me leave. The envelope appeared on my 4th week and slid under the lobby door sometime after midnight. No return address, just my name scrawled in jagged black ink. Inside was a single piece of paper with 3 words: "Check room 6." I stared at it for what felt like an eternity. Every instinct screamed at me to burn it, throw it away, and pretend it didn't exist. But the motel didn't work like that. Ignoring the rules had consequences, ones I had no desire to experience again. With trembling hands, I pocketed the note and grabbed the master key from the desk drawer. The hallway leading to room 6 was darker than usual. It always had a strange vibe, like the air was heavier there, but tonight it felt alive, rippling against my skin, buzzing in my ears. When I reached the door, I hesitated. The brass numbers gleamed faintly, and I noticed something I hadn't before: scratches around the keyhole as if someone had tried to claw their way in. I slid the key into the lock and turned it. The door swung open slowly, revealing nothing. At first, I thought the room was empty, but then I realized it wasn't a room at all. It was a void, a swirling expanse of darkness that seemed to stretch into eternity. The walls, the ceiling, and the floor were all gone, replaced by an endless black that felt alive, like it was watching me. In the center of the void floated a figure. It was me. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. The figure was suspended in midair, arms and legs splayed out as if held by invisible strings. Its head tilted toward me, and its eyes locked onto mine. Then it smiled. "Jack," it whispered, its voice distorted, layered over itself like 1,000 echoes. The balance must be kept. The door slammed shut behind me, and I felt the air ripple again. When I turned back, the knife was there resting on the floor at my feet. It was simple and crude, its blade glinting faintly in the dim light. Beside it was a photograph. It wasn't of me this time. It was of my mom. I couldn't move. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might burst. The figure tilted its head again, watching me. "Choose," it hissed. "Fix the balance, or lose everything." I picked up the photograph, my hands trembling. It was an old picture of my mom at my high school graduation, tears in her eyes, smiling like I was her whole world. "No," I muttered, shaking my head. "I won't do this." The air grew heavier, the darkness pressing in around me. The figure's smile widened, splitting its face unnaturally. "You have no choice," it said, its voice deepening, turning guttural. I don't remember making the decision. All I remember is running. I sprinted back to the lobby, my chest burning, my head pounding. The hallway stretched longer than it should have, the walls bending and twisting like I was trapped in some kind of funhouse. When I finally reached the lobby, I grabbed my bag and bolted for the front door. It was locked. "No," I whispered, yanking at the handle. "No, no, no." Behind me, I heard the soft scrape of footsteps. I turned, and the manager was there, standing in the shadows. His eyes gleamed faintly, like an animal's caught in headlights. "You're running?" he asked, his tone mocking. "You can't run from this. The balance doesn't care about your excuses." "Let me go," I pleaded. "Please, I won't tell anyone. I'll just disappear." He shook his head slowly. "No one leaves, Jack. You're part of it now." I don't know how I got out. One second, I was clawing at the door, screaming, and the next, I was lying on the side of the highway, gasping for air. The motel was gone. I looked around, disoriented. There was nothing but empty road and endless fields. No Pinewood Motel, no neon sign, no flickering lights, just silence. I started walking, my legs shaky, my head spinning. I didn't know where I was going, just away. That was 3 months ago. I've tried to move on, to forget, but the motel hasn't let me. I see it sometimes, out of the corner of my eye. Driving down the highway at night, I'll catch a glimpse of the neon sign in my rearview mirror. When I look again, it's gone. The worst part is the dreams. Every night, I'm back there, standing in front of room 6, the door open, the knife on the floor. And every night, I hear the same whisper. The balance must be kept. I thought I escaped, but now I know the truth. The Pinewood Motel isn't just a place. It's a trap, a living thing that chooses its victims. And no matter how far I run, it'll find me. It isn't done with me yet.